Hi all, I thought I'd really go way out of my usual videos and look at pawn formations. I was having an interesting philosophical discussion with my brother, Nick, yesterday. I'd recommended him a book called Goal. It's a business management book, kind of novel, an exciting novel format though. So it's full of tension and drama. But one of the ideas in Goal is to identify like the slowest bottleneck. And Nick, profoundly seemed to relate it to, pawn structure in chess, because they're like, the bottleneck. Really, you can't change them easily. So if you put them at the front of your queue and everything behind it, you'll be minimizing. You'll be putting yourself in a position to kind of optimize the virtual system. If it can be seen as a virtual system. So basically, if you get your pawn structure right, then you've got a good game usually. And if it's not right, then it's very difficult to do anything about it. So it's like putting it's holding up everything else. So there's an interesting article on Wiki about the major pawn formations, and so if we see pawn structure as a major bottleneck to our chess, it's good to understand the major themes. So let's have a look at this Caro formation. Apparently this is based on something by Soltis, Pawn Structure Chess. Now in this Caro-Kann formation, often I'm playing the Caro-Kann. If the bishop's outside the pawn chain, I think that makes a difference for why like c5 or e5 is going to be useful to get rid of the the light squared bishop. So it's saying themes for white, outpost on e5, yes. Okay, that's often good there, for striking at f7, for example. Kingside space advantage, I guess, but also I think because of that semi-open file, rooks can often swing to e3 and then come to like g3 and h3. Possibility of queenside majority in the end game, maybe, I guess. Themes for black, there's a weakness of the d4 pawn. I think especially if c5 and the pawn gets isolated later. There's also e5 breaks. The latter break is usually preferable for some reason. It's indicating here, but harder for black to achieve. I'm not really sure why that would be, except it would liberate the bishop if the bishop was stuck on c8. It might create a semi-open. No, actually not a semi-open file because there's no pawn on e2. But okay, I guess e5 is often in general preferable. So that's the Caro formation. The Slav formation is kind of similar, except look, there's a pawn missing from c2. It's gone to e3. So it's similar themes for black here. This c5 or e5 break is mentioned, but no real preference there. Themes for white, pressure on the c file, yes. With the pawn missing, there's a semi-open file. There's a potential outpost on c5. There's potential to do a minority attack with b4, b5, if you can leave an isolated pawn there, an isolated pawn there. So it's mentioned, b5. Also, d5 takes c6. If you can get that in, that will still wreck black's pawn structure a bit more. But I think that's going to be more difficult, because black's going to have e takes d5, though. So Cillian says Scheveningen. This is more flexible for black because black's always looking out for either d5 or e5. So things for white, pressure on the d file, yes. d6 is sometimes a major weakness. Space advantage, e4, e5 break, often paired with f4, I guess. f4, f5 push. You've got to be careful with these pushes because you often black knight can come to e5. g4, g5, yeah, it can be slow because the queenside counter attack stuff. Things for black, pressure on the c file. Minority attack, yes, because there's a minority of pawns. So if there's a pawn on c3, then b5, b4. Again, you get the isolated pawn effect if b takes c3 and bc3. Pressure on white's pawn on e4 or e5, yes, because often there's a fianchetto bishop over here coming and combined with b4 to chase a knight. e4 often becomes weak. So I'm agreeing with this kind of generalization stuff. Well, as you would with any grandmaster, if grandmaster says so. It's a generalization anyway. So it's not meant for every circumstance. But the idea here, I mean, I was motivated a bit more to do this kind of video because if we do consider pawn structures to be our ultimate, bottleneck, the slowest part of our positions, I think it's important to understand how to play for them and against them. So if you want to look up this page, it's wiki space pawn structure. If you do a Google search, Sicilian Dragon. I mean, this is really a complex pawn structure, I think. But what are the themes for white? Outpost on d5, yeah, I suppose so. Kingside attack with f4, f5, yeah. Often I think exchanging off the dark square bishop's good to try and get into these dark squares. Often there's a Finch at a bishop here. And if white castles queenside, often an idea is rook c3 to smash up the pawns, double pawns, isolate pawn, and good attacking opportunities. So pressure on the long diagonal, yeah, if there's a bishop there. Queenside counterplay, exploiting white's often overextended kingside pawns in the endgame, I guess, because black's got usually nice endgames, the central pawns, if he can survive that long without getting slaughtered on the h file. Actually, it does mention h4, h5, so that's a usual way to try and undermine black's king safety. Maroczy bind. Sicilian Maroczy bind. I have trouble with this as white sometimes because black's usually getting nice pieces on c5 and e5. So things for white: knight d4 to c2 to e3. Fianchetting one or both bishops, so g2 or b2. c3 to d5 followed by e4 d5. So if you go to that structure, you've got pressure on black's e7 pawn if you can get a pawn to d5. Things for black: b5 break, yes, I've often used that myself. f5 break, yes. So these are the points which are easy to undermine. c4 and e4. These are the most exploitable for the pawn chain, to try and undermine the pawn chain. So these are the logical breaks: f5 and b5. The Boleslavsky hole, so the d5 hole. I know in theory you shouldn't give yourself a backward d6 pawn, but black often has nice piece pressure and can often liberate if white's not careful with d5. So d6 to d5 break is cited as the main thing. Queenside minority attack, yeah, because there's 2 to 3 again. And the c4 square, yeah, because it's the natural outpost on the semi-open file. So the things for white: taking control of the d5, yeah, making sure black can never play d5. Exploiting the backward d6 pawn, f4 break. I also say, getting rid of the light square bishops, so once you get your outpost, it's a very secure outpost. So that's taking control of the d5 hole basically.